So there's another book that I got recently. It was actually it's from Womancraft Publishing, when Lucy Pearce and Sarah Robinson were doing the creative masterclass that you could get access to if you bought one of the books before a certain time. And so The Witch in the Wildwood is the book that I got because I do have a lot of Lucy Pearce's books already. And I saw this one, I saw Folklore, and I thought, oh, that's a bit of me. So I got this book, which meant I got access to the creative masterclass that they did. That was a 1 hour thing. They are actually doing an e-course now for the creative masterclass. But on the day, I was prepared. I had it in my calendar. At 7 to 8 p.m. So I was here with the kids. I got them ready. I had them fed, watered, calm, chilled, out of the way. And I did all of that in the hour between 6 and 7. And logged in at 7 p.m. because in my calendar I put it at 7 to 8. And it was actually at 6 till 7. And I've since watched back the recording, if anybody was on it as well. Towards the end, actually like a minute to 7, Lucy goes, oh, someone's just trying to join us now. Oh, they got the wrong time, sorry. That was me. And it took me a minute or two to realise, because I looked at the time again. I looked at my calendar, and then I looked at the email, and I was like, what a muppet. ADHD strikes again. So yeah, that was me. But the book that I got was The Witch in the Wildwood, and I was just leafing through it. It's by Sarah Robinson. She's the one who wrote The Kitchen Witch as well, which I have seen like bits of, but I don't have a copy of yet, so I want to get one. But I was leafing through it and I came across Ellen of the Ways. She's been popping up a lot. There's the literary cat, crazy cat bookmark we love in Mac. Such a good bookshop. This wasn't from there, I'm just using the bookmark. So yeah, Ellen of the Ways, obviously from the Mabinogion, but she's been popping up a lot recently, and I've been seeing like horns and, you know, just a lot of synchronicity around her. And when I opened the book and I was leafing through it, I naturally came to a stop and was like, oh, what am I looking at? Ellen of the Ways. Oh my gosh, I've just seen the beginning of the book. There's a bookmark in here too, but there is actually a sticker from Sarah saying Wild Wishes. How gorgeous. I didn't know they were doing that. That's cool. Probably was written somewhere and I just skimmed past it. Wild wishes to you too, Sarah. Thank you very much. So the back of the book says, welcome to the Wildwood, where magic hides in ancient roots. In the hidden shadows amongst the trees, tales of witches are whispered. What is it about the wild that draws us in and has captured our imaginations for so long? The Witch in the Wildwood delves into stories of the woods as told through some of its most enchanting inhabitants, witches, fairy folk, and magical creatures. This is an invitation to find enchantment, and why not? Surely we can all bear a little more magic and a little more wild in our days. This book is an ode to the untamed spirit that resides within all of us, a reminder that there is magic in the air, ancient wisdom and beauty in the wild. Let's journey through the wildwood and her spells together. Prepare to fall under the spell of the witch maidens, dear women, she-wolves, wild alones, and women of wild waters who sit in willow trees plotting delicious revenge. Meet the real witches of the wildwood and those who were tried for witchcraft. Unearth the common threads that bind the wild woman archetype across time and its explosion of popularity in recent times. And explore the fairy and folk tales of the witch that lives in the woods, beckoning you into a world where magic and reality intertwine. It sounds really cool, doesn't it? Yeah, so it's in the chapter Gods and Goddesses of the Wildwood, chapter 4, and this is Ellen of the Ways. So I'm just going to read this bit. The next one is Cernunnos. Cernunnos? Yeah. Wow. There's so many. And the antlered gods. She's under the antlered gods. The antlered gods of the Wildwood. Is that what that said? No, the antlered gods of the Greenwood. Okay, so Elen of the Ways. Within the collection of stories known as the Mabinogion is a tale called The Dream of Maxen Wledig. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. In which there is a radiant woman called Elen. The character, Maxen Wledig, is an emperor of Rome. It's the Welsh name for Magnus Maximus. He dreams of a journey across mountains and rivers, and at the journey's end he comes upon a beautiful castle. He enters, and on a golden throne sits Elen. In some translations, her name is anglicised to Helen. The most beautiful woman he has ever seen, shining golden like the sun. He marries Elen, and she becomes Empress Elen. The people of Britain assembled in their love and respect for her, building great roads through the land, connecting her new and various castles. These were known as the roads of Elen of the Hosts. Story and history can get confusing because this Elen and Magnus Maximus may have actually existed in history. Elen Lwyddog, Elen of the Hosts, is thought to be a late 4th century founder of churches in Wales and is a saint in the Welsh Church. In English, she is sometimes known as Saint Elen or Helen of Carnarvon. Roman roads on modern maps still show the 160-mile Sarn Helen, and other Roman roads also bear Helen's name. There are also 20 or more holy wells in Britain dedicated to St. Helen, and she is acknowledged as a kind of patron of roads and pathways and a protectress and provider for travellers. These may or may not all be the same Helen. This collective story of Elen and her roads presents her as a path-making figure, both metaphorical and the literal ones. The British Isles is a land of many paths, Roman roads, ancient trackways, ley lines and animal tracks. And step by step, story by story, the pathways made by Elen in story and the pathways made by other elements, celestial pathways of sun and moon, dawn and dusk, and the migration of reindeer, roe deer and stag, all blend together in the words of storytellers and folklore. Over time, for better or worse, a woman, a story character, a saint, and road infrastructure become connected to our oldest and most ancient dear goddesses. Elen becomes connected with antlered deities and portrayed by some as a goddess, guardian of all travellers and journey makers. So the next part is in grey. I'm not really sure if that means it's from somewhere else, but I should read from the beginning maybe, but we're not. It says finding goddesses in the Mabinogion. This elevation of Elen from her first written forms to a goddess is not unique. Within the collected tales of the Mabinogion, stories weave together folklore, Celtic history and tradition and are set in a magical version of Wales. These stories evolved and developed through the Celtic and Welsh people, who embellished them with each new telling. What's fascinating is that the Mabinogion, the Welsh tales retold by an English author, Lady Charlotte Guest, features no female characters described specifically as goddesses, but instead we meet powerful characters with otherworldly skills, charms and abilities such as shape-shifting, which may signify various Gallo-Brittonic deities or gods in human form, or humans with divine abilities. Can lost goddesses be found in the Mabinogion, or is it the catalyst that created new ones? We may reflect on what these enchanting characters may have meant to medieval Welsh audiences and readers, and reasons why Guest may not have specifically named pagan figures and gods, such as appeasing Christians. As the great stories are retold by bards and storytellers and artists, the status of some figures may have been enhanced, even promoted to deities, or older Welsh tales may always have seen them as such. Rhiannon, for example, is described as noble lady of the otherworld, rather than explicitly a goddess, but this connection to the otherworld and royalty suggests she may have been a pagan goddess figure or fairy queen. Ceridwen is a mother skilled in sorcery, shape-shifting and the brewing of potions in the Mabinogion, a woman many would call a witch. And in 1809, clergyman and antiquarian Edward Davis deemed her a goddess of ancient Britain in his Mythology and Rites of British Druids, an identity accepted by many since. Gwyn ap Nudd, in 11th and 12th century texts, is one of King Arthur's warriors. In time, poets would make him a lord of the underworld, and he becomes a spirit of darkness and deception. Then Sir John Rhys, an Oxford professor writing around 1880, crowned him a Celtic god of the dead and yet another leader of the wild hunt. Many beings, deities and spirits took on this role in varied stories. These transformations may irk scholars, but are gifts to artists, writers and all folks inspired by the stories. Maybe there's a little magic in these tales that can't be quantified, and a fine story. Even the deities can't suppress those. So Elen has somewhat been reborn in modern times as an antlered goddess who rules the ways, the passages of human life, both physical and spiritual, and so we arrive at path-making, goddess of guidance figure in Elen of the Ways. The marrying of the name Elen of the Ways and goddess figure with antlers was very recent, around 1980s. Carolyn Wise devoted decades into research of ancient antlered deities and wrote about Elen as goddess in Elen of the Shimmering Ways in 1986. As with many modern pagan Wiccan ideas, some are newer than others, but most have ancient roots. So now, when one says Elen of the Ways, many see an ancient goddess, the soul of the forest, creator of tracks and paths, guide to human and animal movement over the wild places. A goddess whose favour may be sought in travelling, making one's way, connected to the land and its rhythm, its ancient forms and slow changes. She can be a representative of our many lost ancient deities with horns and hooves, who assist us in connecting to the animals and the land. Some call her Elen of the Ways, some don't, but if something here resonates, it might be that this figure offers us a feeling of guidance and protection, so often missing in our modern lives. Perhaps this lady of the Wildwood has no care for what you try to name her. She is hidden amongst the trees. Only the lucky few may catch a glimpse before she slips quietly, silently, amongst ancient branches once more. That's cool. I like it. That's Sarah Robinson there at the back. 1 second, I've just, oh lordy. There you go. There she is. Thanks, Sarah, that was lovely. I'm going to have to read more of that book. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you soon.